Hello and welcome to The Green Room by Deloitte, the podcast which asks the tricky questions about the world around us. I'm George Parrett, and today we're asking the question, what makes a great career? Hi everyone, and thank you for downloading this week's podcast. This is our third episode, asking what makes a great career, and I'm joined by my co-host, Ethan Worth. How's it going, Ethan?
Good, thanks, George. Great to be here. Excited as usual. I think it's fitting as I'm the youngest member of the pod squad. I think you're the oldest member as well, aren't you, George?
Thanks for reminding everyone about that, but that's right. And I think, yes, we're going to ask about what makes a great career, try and test these generational stereotypes a little bit, ask what your first day of work's like, what the last day of work's going to be like, and how things have changed over the last few decades in the world of work.
So I think, as the listeners will know, I was a previous teacher, and I think my first day of work, well, not my first day, but my first week, I think I was locked out of a classroom. I think that was probably not the best start to working life, but things got better.
And that's probably why you're not a teacher now, is it?
Probably, yeah. So this week we have David Cruickshank. David is our global chairman. He joined straight out of university and has spent his entire career with Deloitte, working different jobs such as head of tax and UK chairman. After seeing many airport lounges around the world, he's getting ready for retirement. Hi, David.
Hello there, great to be here.
We're also joined by Lowri Jones. Lowri is a risk and compliance analyst. When she was in her second year of university, she decided it wasn't for her. She's joined Deloitte just a few months ago and is now an apprentice based in Cardiff. Thanks for travelling to come and chat to us, Lowri.
Thank you for having me.
Excellent. And now I'm going to take an infamous question from our icebreaker bucket, see what we have this week. Okay, so what's your favourite breakfast cereal?
Got to be the classic Weetabix, bit of sugar.
I have a friend who's got quite bad diabetes, and my really favourite breakfast cereal is Crunchy Nut cornflakes, but he tells me the amount of sugar when we go in rugby weekends, the amount of sugar that's in them, so he persuaded me to stop eating that. So I have sugar-free Alpin now. Really boring.
Nice, very grown up.
That's devastating, because I'm a crunchy nut as well.
Yeah,
So,
apparently too much sugar.
Oh,
so
no.
my friend tells me,
That's
as he
why
injects
they're
himself with his
ludicrously
insulin.
Yeah.
I'm still a bit of a child, and I love a cereal called Lucky Charms. They used to do it in the
my
UK,
daughters
then
like them.
they stopped doing it, so for a treat now and then.
You get them in America.
You can get them in
friends
America.
in America, get them to bring them over for you.
Yeah, or you can get them here for ridiculously overpriced, so I have them for a treat once in a while.
Excellent. Well, we've learned something valuable there about our guest today, which is great. And I think we're talking about this question, what makes a great career? And I think it might be helpful if Lowri and David, you can talk about a bit of an overview of your careers to date and what you've learned, and perhaps maybe describe your first day in your career, or first day working. Lowri, do you want to go first?
Yeah, of course. So obviously I'm quite new to the world of work, only been with Deloitte for about 4 months now. But I've always wanted to kind of go into the financial services, so I studied business and maths at A-levels. Straight out of A-levels then I moved into university. I had 2 years at uni, studying accounting and finance. And doing that, I dipped into work. I worked at my local pub. I did a lot of volunteering maths tutoring. But after 2 years of uni, I realised, it's not really me. I wanted a bit more structure to my days. Left uni then, a few months later. Obviously, I heard about the apprenticeship, thought, why not something different? And to be honest, with apprenticeships, I was always told, if you want to go into, be a doctor, go into accounting, anything like that, you should always go to uni. So I didn't even consider apprenticeships, but I thought, I'll give it a go. And 4 months on, absolutely loving my role in quality and risk. So yeah, absolutely glad I did it.
I remember the first days very well. I trained in our Edinburgh office, and in the Edinburgh office at the time, there were 32 people. And so we all knew each other really quickly, and we got to work in every area in the office. So I remember doing some audit work, some reconstruction work, some tax work, some farmers' accounts, everything, the full range from big companies to small companies. And there were 6 students every year. So of the 32 people in the office, 18 of them were students. We all knew each other very well. We had a lot of fun, but we worked very hard and we learnt a lot. So it was, I can remember it all like it was yesterday. It was a fabulous training.
So I guess before we delve into some of the questions around what makes a great career, I was just wanting to get to know you guys a bit better. So I read recently that a common trait of successful people, however that may be defined, is that they know what their superpower is. So the one thing that they're really good at. So some examples that have been given are like curiosity or doggedness. So what would you say was your superpower?
I am persistent, yes, dogged, yes, curious. I love solving problems, so all through my career when I was working in tax and in my time as chairman in the UK and chairman globally, there are problems to solve, and I love working out solutions to problems. So I suppose, am I any good at it? Well, others will judge that, but that's what I like doing. I like complex problems.
How about you, Lowri?
Yeah, I think quite similar to David, actually. I love solving problems. I love getting stuck into the work, really trying out new things and really working hard. So I think hopefully that shows. But yeah, just trying hard, really.
Excellent. Maybe there's a common thread with problem solving in this kind of area of work that you've both gone into. I guess the other thing about you guys is, what would you say you're passionate about? And for our listeners, how did you discover that passion, if you've discovered it yet?
I think you have to be passionate about whatever you're doing at the time, and whether it's it's a sports activity you do, you really shouldn't do it unless you're passionate about it. I think you've got to be passionate about that. You've got to be passionate about your family and friends and invest time in them. And at work, you've got to be passionate about what you're doing. And if you find yourself in an area you're not passionate about, you should speak to your team and work out how you can improve what you're doing, or you can look to move teams. I think you have to be. The reason I say that is that work for most people in our firm is really demanding, and there are good times and there are bad times, and I think you get through both well if you're passionate about what you're doing and you know where you're going.
I think it sounds so cliche that I'm saying this, but I think it's just helping others is my main passion at the moment. I'm really into my volunteering, so I've had loads of roles tutoring kids, maths and English, and I've just started volunteering with Dogs Trust, which is the best thing I've ever done because they're so adorable. But even in Deloitte, they offer so many opportunities. Recently, I went to a school near Newport, helping the kids just with mock interviews, writing CVs. I think that's really, what gets me excited. I really like what I can get out of that.
I think it's great to hear you're doing that, actually, because I think it's a great thing that we can all do a bit of, actually, because getting young people to understand what's in the world of work, how it's changing so fast, and opening their eyes to the possibilities, I think is really, really important.
And is that a generational thing, do you think? I not necessarily want to pigeonhole what you are, whether it's a Gen Z or a millennial person or post-millennial, but I think I wonder if there's an expectation around that actually we have the opportunity to do more hustling, as it were, side job projects.
I think it might be. I know kind of millennials are kind of dubbed as, they want to make a big impact when they go into work. I know that is a big stereotype. And I'll be honest, I do want to make a big impact. But I think then again, so does everyone working. So I don't think it is, just one generation that wants that.
What about you, David? Have you seen any kind of generational differences in the kind of approach to work, or perhaps approach to people's aspirations in their careers, or anything like that?
We do some great surveys on this, and for those listening who haven't looked at it, there's a Deloitte millennial survey published every year, which is on the website, which looks at aspirations of millennials and our Generation Z as well. And definitely it's true that millennials want to work for organizations that have got a very clear sense of purpose. They want their jobs to be rewarding and challenging. They want their employers to stand for good things. They also want to be well paid and have good career prospects. That hasn't changed. But I would say that expectation level around purpose and the meaning of work is higher now with generation coming into the workplace now, and the millennial generation, than it would have been in my day. I think we wanted to have interesting work. We wanted to be well paid. We wanted to have great challenges and so on. I think at the equivalent stage, we thought less about surrounding environment than the current generation do, which I think is a great thing. And what our survey shows is, and has done for many years actually, is that that's the same right around the world. And so I think it fills you with great confidence actually when you look at the generation coming through in all countries, that those are their views.
Sort of cynic would say actually are younger workers too demanding at the moment, and that obviously presents a challenge for firms hiring lots of young people. So.
Yeah, but it's better people are demanding than they're not, because I think you question then whether you've got the right workforce if they're not really. I think it's but I agree about the challenge. It means that, you know, having people doing routine tasks year after year after year without changing how they're doing it, what they're doing, you know, I think in generations past that might have been acceptable to some people. I don't think it would be acceptable now. People want to see progression, they want to see the challenge. Yeah, as Lowri said, yeah, new challenge.
So David, you mentioned earlier that the importance of diversity, and apparently millennials are much more likely to spend 5+ years at an organisation if they have a diverse workforce and diverse management teams. So how important is diversity in the world of work, do you think? And has there ever been a time where a lack of diversity or lots of diversity has ever affected your career?
I mean, I've thought about this a lot over the last 15 years, and in my various leadership roles. And I think, you know, you start from clients. We're a client service organisation. I think unless you have diverse teams, you're unlikely to have a good fit with clients. Clients have diverse teams. They want to see their service teams really reflect them and their values. And if there's a mismatch there, I think ultimately we won't be successful in the marketplace. So take that as a sort of a hard end of things. I also think that, and there's a huge amount of research on this, for example, the 30% Club, which I'm a member of, which promotes women on boards, it's got a lot of stuff on its website. There's a huge amount of research and evidence that diverse teams get better answers and get better results. So I think, you know, from our own internal point of view, I think that's key to get the best results we can. The third thing I would say is more around the culture of the organisation. I think, you know, we want to have a culture where the best people want to work here, and the best people don't come in one shape or one size or one colour or one sex or one anything. You know, they come in all sorts of shapes and sizes. And so I think, you know, we want to have the best culture that's an inclusive culture that makes people want to come here and then makes people want to stay here. So I think it's absolutely critical. I think we've to your question on the history, you know, I can remember when there was some debate going on. I was still a manager, and I thought it was a very strange debate. It was in 1985, and it was over whether we would have our first woman partner. Now, looking back at that seems quite prehistoric now. A lot of I just thought, I must admit, at that time, I had not thought about it that much. I just assumed it was a timing thing, and I had not considered why there weren't any. And we did indeed have our first woman partner in 1985. But so, you know, compared to that, we've made a lot of progress, because in my lifetime, that doesn't seem, for your lifetime it seems a long time ago, Larry, but for me it doesn't seem that long time ago. But so compared to then, we've made a huge amount of progress. But it's one of these areas that we just need to keep working on, actually, to make sure that, you know, we are as diverse as we'd like to be in everything. And it's a lot of it's to do with attitudes in the firm, you know, as well as the opportunities we give to people.
And I suppose having those sort of values, again, it's cyclical in that it attracts more younger, good talent as well. So it drives that, and that's important. And
yeah, I think actually the kind of the focus Deloitte has on, you know, respect, inclusion, women in the workplace especially, that's the main thing that attracted me to the firm, actually, because obviously, you know, I want to know that I'm able to progress. So the focus they have on that, you know, is, you know, really appealing to me. I think
that's really interesting in a highly competitive job market. Actually, that's an important USP for
definitely. I think any organisation now has to focus more on all of these extra little bits, like, you know, making themselves more diverse, including everyone, because that is what millennials look for now, not just, you know, what they're going to be doing day to day in the job.
Larry made the point a lot better than me. You're a high talent. You chose to come here because of that straightforward end of argument. I think that's just such a huge part of it.
And in a relatively short space of time, because 30 years ago that wasn't really a consideration. So yeah, that's great. I think so. Just thinking about both your careers a little bit, people often talk about having a 5-year career plan. And Lowri, does that not exist anymore? Is that a dead idea?
Oh no, I think a 5-year plan definitely still exists. Yes, I know. Well, I'm on my entry apprenticeship now, which finishes in August, September time. And I know straight away I want to move on to the Bright Start Higher apprenticeship with Deloitte. So that'll take me through the next 5 years. So I know exactly what I want to do.
Right. I think 40% of millennials would consider leaving their current career within 2 years, and that rises to 60% for Gen Zers. So I think that's interesting that you'll kind of have that stability in place.
Yeah. Well, no, I think stability is really important for me. But I think what that survey shows is that the younger millennials, especially, they know exactly where they want to be. And if one organisation isn't giving it to them, they're more than happy to go, no, I'll move to another firm where I can get where I want to be. So, and I think, that's important. If you do want to progress, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that.
I wish I could give a really scientific answer on this, because I was thinking back to when I was at Lowri's stage, and certainly I had a 3-year plan when I started my training contract, and the 3-year plan consisted of getting qualified and went no further than that. And then when I got qualified, I had a plan probably every couple of years until I thought I had a chance of being a partner, and then that I think became a sort of 3-year plan. Since then, I would say I probably plan 2 years ahead on things. So I did not have a great grand plan to be doing the job I'm doing now. That emerged, and I was given the opportunity. Like my role as chair in the UK, like my role as head of tax, the opportunities emerged, and then I went for them. And so I think you've got to really focus on being really, really good at the job you're doing now, and then look at opportunities that are there and then go for them. I think it's quite hard to plot out a linear route for everything over a very long period.
And there are things always change.
I think because things change,
and children and all sorts.
Things change, yeah.
So it's good to know what you want out of life and then be able to maximise those opportunities when they come along and create your own luck. But for me personally, I think a 5-year plan I struggle with. Maybe as more of a typical millennial. So what would you say have been the pivotal moments in your 30 years of experience and some of the key decisions that you've had to make?
I think being recruited, first of all, and joining the firm and enjoying my time all the way through. I think you have to enjoy it. As I said, there are always times when you don't, but I think on balance, you have to enjoy it. And I think becoming a partner was a big milestone for me. I really enjoyed that change, and what I was able to do as a partner was wonderful. I think then the opportunities to lead teams. So when I had an opportunity to lead a tax group in London, then lead the tax practice, and then lead the board as chair in the UK and as chair globally. I think all of those have been real markers. I still, to this day, though, get a huge kick out of being with teams and winning new clients. And so I was with teams in China last week, and all the meetings we had, bar one, which was with the government official, was with clients where we were trying to win work. And there's something in my DNA that likes the chase of being with clients and trying to win work from them. And so I suppose all throughout, there have been successes and failures. Many times where you go through a bad period and you do lots of proposals and you don't win any, it gets very depressing. But then you hope you have good times when you win a lot as well. So those are all lots of little high points and low points throughout.
What I want to delve into is, what is it that makes you feel special being a partner? What is the feeling of being a partner?
There's something very intangible about the culture of partnerships and partners working with each other. There's a huge interdependency. So I think we all know that if we all succeed, we do very well, and if we fail, then we don't do well. And also in a partnership, you learn that you don't need to do everything yourself. You rely on others, and they will produce for you, they will help you, and likewise, you will help them. And so when from the days when I was serving clients, I'd phone up partners and ask for help in a project. I never have to explain why, never had to explain why, it just happened. And they knew what was required and how to do it. They knew how to work with the teams that I had. And equally now, when I go around the world, there is that very special bond of interdependency between partners. You all work together. You know that if collectively you get it right, it makes a huge impact. You're all very much invested in the firm in terms of your reputations and yes, income and things as well. But you also have this massive collective responsibility, what we call stewardship, really, making sure that the firm is better when you leave it than when you join it. The spirit of partnership also means that I think it's like a big family. People can have a lot of fun together as well because they all understand the dynamics of the business and the dynamics of working with each other. And like families, it means that not everybody agrees all the time with everything that everybody else does, but there's that rich interdependency and value set that you get.
And that partnership kind of family, as you put it, sets it apart from perhaps being an MD in a corporate.
Yeah, I think I speak to lots of people who were partners here and went on to become CFOs or CEOs or chairmen of big corporate organisations. The one thing they will say is, in many cases, it feels quite lonely in their roles because they're very hierarchical. There is one chairman, there's one CEO, and whereas here, even though you have a role like mine, the organisational structure is very flat. Partners are partners, and so I speak to partners anywhere in the world without any regard to my chairman badge, if you like. I'm a partner, they're partners. And so you never feel lonely as a partner. Whereas in the corporate world, it can be great, but I think contrasting it to here, it can also be lonely.
Maybe that absence of loneliness helps make a great career. That's what
maybe. I haven't thought about that until you've asked the question just now. So.
So we recently did a podcast on automation and the workplace of the future. And one of the really interesting things that I found was thinking about how children can prepare for a future that they don't really know what it will look like. So one of the things I was interested in is, David, how the world of work is different from what you imagined when you first entered it.
When I started off, there weren't PCs. We still had faxes as the main form of communication. We still had telex machines in all of the offices. And we just about moved on to word processing with things called wangs, and I can't remember where wangs were made, somewhere in Asia, and we had word processing pools, so we'd got to that point of technology. And I roll forward to now where technology is embedded in every aspect of our practice, and I think it's going to be, if you look at AI and robotics, actually, in a number of our areas are going to play a much bigger part. I think people adapt to that. I think younger people coming into the workforce, have grown up with technology as an integral part of their life, and so I don't think they're scared with it. They adapt to it. I think. I think our challenges are to make sure that for people who are well on in the workforce, we need to keep equipping them and skilling them, reskilling them for the changes, because we've had a huge amount of change, there'll be a huge amount more change. For example, I think of in Japan, where there's a concept of lifelong employment. I've spoken to some Japanese business leaders, and they are taking people in their mid-50s and reskilling them with computer skills, programming skills in one case I can think of, and putting them effectively back to college for 6 months to do this. People in their mid-50s. Now, would that happen here or in America or France? No. But I do think we need to think more like that, actually, that people are going to constantly learn new skills throughout their careers. And that's very different to when people came into their workforce when I started, where it was kind of you learnt your skills at an early stage, and then as long as you kept broadly up to date, then you were fine. But I think it's going to be much more dramatic now, the reskilling that will need to take place.
And is that driven by the pace of technological change?
Yes.
I guess also the lifespan of a career is
getting longer.
Increase.
Yeah, it's a good point. The lifespan's increasing as well.
Yeah, I think, adding on to what David said, for me, being one of the younger millennials, I've grown up with technology. I mean, all these Apple, iPads, iPhones. So I am used to it, but I think technology, it's constantly advancing. I know when the new iPhone comes out, I look at it and I'm like, I don't know how to use this, and I don't want to learn how to use it. I like all my, my iPhone 5. But I do think, as we're moving on, like in maybe 10, 20 years, there's going to be so much advancements, more technology in the workplace. And I do think all generations will just have to adapt and, have that extra training to be able to work with it.
I think we're touching, and I think it's a really interesting area. We're sort of touching on how perhaps a younger generation is informing and educating an older generation. I wonder how can we foster that more, and how can we encourage generations to help each other out? Is there a way of doing that easily, do you think?
Actually, some countries have experimented with that. So again, as part of reskilling people, in Korea and Singapore, they have specific programs where millennials will work with retired people to teach them skills to then get the retired people back into the workplace again. So to answer your question, I'm sure the answer is yes. And I'm sure we learn all the time. It's one of the great things about a firm like ours. There's still a bit of a pyramid in terms of age. So we have more young people than we have old people. And it's one of the reasons I love it and I'm still here, is I think you are influenced all the time by the views of the younger people who challenge and want to do things, and you learn from them. I learn from your generation.
Do you feel you're in an environment where you can challenge the status quo a little bit, or inform them of what's new and cool, I suppose?
Definitely, yeah. I just think, it's so easy to communicate. I mean, everyone here, it's such like a relaxed, friendly environment. I've got no problem speaking to the older generation and hopefully vice versa. It is just really easy to communicate with everyone here.
If you could write a tweet to your 20-year-old self, what would you say?
Goodness, that's a hard question. Because I never planned to be doing the roles that I've been doing for the last 20 years when I was 20. As I said, my ambition was to get qualified as an accountant and then look at the options. So I'd probably have to remind myself or tell myself to stick with it, because at various stages, and again, being open about this, you do look at options outside the firm if you've been here for a long time. And certainly in my run-up to partner, I looked at all sorts of different things, and I thought, no, I'm still getting a lot out of being at the firm, and so I'm still learning a lot, so I'll stick with it. So I suppose my message to myself would be definitely stick with it. And I think, like I was saying earlier, I think for those who, feel that they're not getting the same stimulus or demanding work, they should really talk to others around them about how to change the work or to move to another part of the firm. Because one of the most frustrating things from my point of view is where you see people leave the firm to go to jobs that aren't really that great. And if only they talked about their desire for change earlier, we would have created a much better role for them in the firm.
So sticking with it and also asking for what you want, having the confidence to...
Yeah, asking for what you want. People will receive it much more positively than you'd think.
Just in a nutshell, to answer this week's question, what makes a great career? If you're able to give a couple of word answers to that, that'd be great.
I think, like I said earlier, just making an impact. I think regardless of your generation, that's the end goal. That's what everyone wants out of a career, to be remembered, and have something to say, they achieved.
That's an excellent answer. I agree. That's an excellent answer.
I think it's a great answer too, and I think also being proud of what you do and what you've achieved, even if it's on a small scale, just be producing something that you're proud of, I think.
Well, excellent. Thank you so much, David and Larry, for coming today and informing us about what makes a great career. It's been great having you here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us.
Thank you. Great to meet you.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to this episode of The Green Room by Deloitte. Next time, tune in as we dive into our next question: can one small change save the planet? This podcast is produced by our very own pod squad and hosted by George Parrett, Lizzie Elston and Ethan Worth. Thanks to our creative studio for their technical support. Original music by Ali Barrett from our consulting team.